Hey, welcome back to Grit Gym. Today we are down one person. I know you guys are really disappointed that Eric isn't here, but he had some stuff going on. So it's me talking about the math of max strength. And not the math of max strength. We're actually going to go through the individualization of the math, because you have to do the math. Unless, you can make some contingency by why not to use percentages, but that's for an individual who has done has lifted for like 20 years, has this outrageous amount of, they have dropped the ego, they have this extreme relationship with their body where they really know what they can and can't lift on different days, and they understand that some days you're not going to be able to do very much. You know, like when the first time that this really hit me, this whole math of strength thing, was kind of around the same time that it hit me how important recovery is. And I know that last week we did that, talk about how you cannot be overworked, you cannot be overtrained, you can only be under-rested and under-recovered. There is no over, that's a status quo nonsense. And the way that this came about to me was, this is about the first 2 months of Grit Gym opening up, you know, at the time, I was doing pretty decent. I was lifting with, lifting-wise, training-wise. The guy that I was lifting with, a friend of mine, he's a monster in the weight room. He, the last time we talked, I think he had just squatted 935 pounds or 950 pounds, or it was over 900 pounds he had squatted. So he's a really strong guy, right? So I'm the squirt in that scenario. So the only time that I could really beat him at anything was like the little sled conditioning circuit that we would do at the end for a real quick hit. Otherwise, he was just lifting mountains of weight. And at the time, I was deadlifting a little over 500 pounds. I was at like maybe in the 540 range, 560 range, somewhere in there. And this particular day, I had come into the weight room, and the last people had left for the night, and this is like the first 2 months of Grit Gym. So at the time, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., I'm getting to the gym by 5, I'm training until about 10 a.m., I'm going home to grab breakfast, do all the other businessy stuff, grab lunch, come back at 1, train till 9, clean be back home by like 9:30, unwind by 10:30, go to sleep, wake up at 4. So I'm only getting about 6 hours of sleep in at the time, and I'm pushing it pretty hard. But I don't think that I'm overworked. I'm going hard, and I'm trying to make things happen. And I was training really well too. So everybody leaves for the night. Andrew and I start training. I do my warm up. We get to our warm up sets. I pulled 135 for 5. I pulled 225 for 5, and then I go to grab 315, thinking, you know, this is no big deal. Like 315 is literally 1/3 of what I was used to lifting at the time. I was going to go between. I remember I was going to go between. I was going to try to get well into the 5s, but I was going to stop somewhere between 475 and 515 for a deadlift that day. That's what I was planning on, right? I got to 315, and I remember the bar was stuck to the ground. It was like it could have weighed. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, and I was like, I remember standing up and looking at it and being like, what the hell? Maybe I was just in bad position. So I reset, rebraced, grabbed it, and went for it. And I was like, what is going on? It would not budge. It felt like 1,000,000 pounds as far as that goes. It didn't budge at all. And Andrew calls me a pussy to try to get me going. He was joking around. We both laughed. And then I even went and I think I grabbed a belt after that. But anyway, I tried to pull it one more time, and I was like, dude, like literally, like I can't even touch it. Now think of that. That's only 315 pounds. I know that I had lifted 540 2 weeks before this happened, 540 pounds. So 315 that should be nothing. That should be a warm-up rep. Remember, I'm trying to go from 475 to 515. And so I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Now the thing is, I was under-recovered. I was way under-recovered. At the time, I had a real naggy ex-girlfriend that I was trying to deal with. In hindsight, that's what it looks like. It wasn't Rachel. It was way before Rachel. I'm working really hard. I'm having fights with her. I'm getting to bed for like 6 hours a night, and I'm still training really, really hard. Now I'm training smart. I'm doing a deload every 4 weeks, and I'm doing different things that are smart. And I was using a foam roller. Now, what was I not doing though? I was not recovering in the same. I was working really hard and I was training really hard, but I was not recovering to the same level, right? So that's why I couldn't pick up 315, because I wasn't doing the math. I was living in these ranges, right? If I would have just taken and considered what kind of stress I was putting on my body at the time, which is what we're going to go to here in a second, then I might have been able to come up with something. So this is how this works. Okay, the math of max strength. 1 rep is at 100%. If you can get 1 rep for 100%, that is your true 1 rep max. Now, as you've seen in other videos, and as I'm going to continue in a second, it is pretty stupid to try for a 1 rep max unless you're in a competition. Like literally, unless you're in a competition, going for a 1 rep max is really pretty dumb. It doesn't really give you much. All right, so we know that if you can't do 2 at 100%. So how many can you do? What's the percentage of 2? What's the percentage of 4? What's the percentage of 12? Well, at 3 reps, that's about 94%. At 5 reps, that's about 88%. So somewhere in between there. So 4 would be like 90 to 92%. 8 reps is about 78 to 80%. 12 reps is about 66 to 68%. So now we're getting quite a bit lower. By the time we get up above 12, we're almost a third below what we actually started with, or we're more than a third below. We're almost a fourth. So we're taking this into consideration. All right, so what do you do? So like let's say you have 5 sets, or you have 4 sets of 5. So you have 4 sets of 5. You're not going to build up to 100%. You're going to build up to 88%. This is a 1 rep max. So 4 sets of 5. Let's say you're on your last week. Let's say that this is the final week. This means that if you were going to do, let's say that your deadlift is 100 pounds, well then this would be a max set for you. 5 reps of 88 pounds. Okay, if it was 200, that'd be, what would that be, 176? If you're a 200 rep, if you're a 200 pound deadlift, that's 176. It would be a max out set for you. So you wouldn't do that week 1, you'd back off. And if you're having trouble figuring out what I'm talking about, go back to a couple weeks ago when I did the math of strength and how you do that from week to week to week to week. Now, what I'm going to do here is just go through, instead of actually giving the weights, I'm going to go through percentages. So like if we're doing a 4x5, all right, and we have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. All right, we're not going to build up to an 88% here. Okay, 4 sets of 5, 5 reps, 88% of your 1 rep max. We're not going to build up to a 5 rep max on week 1. We are going to build up to a 5 rep max on week 4, and we're probably going to do it like this: 1, 1, 1, 3 plus, and hopefully you get to 7. So if you got to 7, you would take something, you take like 82%, you take like whatever number you got here. So like it's 176, you take that divided by 82%, that'll give you your new 1 rep max. Sticking with me? All right, so if we do all this, and we did 5, 5, 5, 5, well, we can take all this away and we can make this much more simple. I actually switch out my markers, this one's dying. Put another one, I put a reserve in my pocket just in case. What's going on here? Wow. All right. So if we're going to do this, we know that we're going to end up with 88%. We actually want to stay below your true 1 rep max. So we don't want to use 88%. This is the one thing I think people have a lot of trouble doing. You do not want to use, even on your max set, you still don't want to use that 88% for a 5 rep max. Go below it and hope to hit 8. Don't go below, so drop down 2. So it's basically 2 percentage points is 1 rep or 2 reps, 1 or 2 reps, depending on where you are. Okay, and who you are. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. So for set 4 on a 4x5, we're going to go 86%. All right, and we were building up to that, so we don't want to do 86, 86. We want to drop it down about 5, so 81%. And we want to drop that down about 5 to 76%. And then we want to probably drop that down about 10 to 66%. So that we're not wearing ourselves out before we actually hit our one rep here. So we're trying, if we got 5 right here, we basically have maintained our strength. If we get 7 or 8, 9, 10, we upped our strength. Remember, strength is a coaxing. It's like a leadership. Like come here, come here, come here. It's an influence. You're putting an influence on the body. You're creating a stimulus so that your body will give you a reaction, and that reaction then is what you end up getting. Like you end up getting the strength, or you getting the muscle tone, or you end up getting the extra muscle mass, or you end up getting the fat loss. But you're influencing the body by giving it a stimulus. Here's this thing, please react to it. Here's this thing, please react to it. So we're going to stay below 88%, even though 5 reps is 88% for a 1 rep max. All right, so what would we do on week 3, week 2, and week 1? Well, this is where it gets dependent on the individual, because this is where you actually gain your strength. You don't gain your strength over here in week 4. Week 4 is where, in this situation, we're testing the strength. And I should mention that at Grid Gym, we only test strength 3 times a year, where we have it planned in the system to be checked 3 times a year. You could go more depending on the person, and some people you'll never check their max strength. There would just be no point in it. You'd just be asking for it would be a low return on investment, and you'd be asking for problems. So we have it 3 times a year. So we do 3 macro cycles, and we do 4 microcycles within each macro cycle. So this would be a microcycle within a 4 phase. So we have like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at the end of that, we're going to maybe run a test at the end of that phase. So we did month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, and then maybe we run a test. And then we do month 5, month 6, month 7, month 8, and then maybe we do a test. And then month 9, 10, 11, 12, and maybe we do another test. Start back over at phase 1 and work through the fundamentals of movement first, speed and power, and then we're working on more max strength or hypertrophy depending on the person and their goals. For 99.99% of people, these first 2 things are foundational strength, fundamentals of strength, explosive power, all that stuff. That's what they need, and then we tailor it within that for what they want. But everybody has to have a certain amount of things, and then we can play with the rest of it to get that. So anyway, back to our week 4, we're 86, even though it's 81. So what do you do? What do you do in these? Because this is where you gain all your strength. Now, what you would do for a person who is getting a lot of rest, let's say you're getting 8 hours of rest, you're taking 1 nap every day for 20 minutes, you're meditating once a day for 5 to 15 minutes, you're laughing every day, you're not a high stress person, you're not a crazy go person like me. Well, you would just drop it 80, you just drop it by 5%. So 81, mess that up. So let's say we're doing a squat or a bench press. You would do it different for a deadlift because people can't, our bodies don't handle 2 heavy horizontal sets in a row for deadlift. They just don't. So we'd go 70 or 81. We do 2 sets at 81%, and then we drop it down to 76, and then we drop it down to 66 for week 3. All right, and then week 2, we do that again. So we go 76, 76, and then we'd go 71, and then we'd go 61. And then we'd do that again for week 1, and we'd go 71, 71, and then that would be 66, and then it'd be 56. So these are all just percentage points of what you would normally be, this is what you would normally be doing, okay? And this way you can just plug and chug whatever number you have. So if you have a 300-pound squat, you would just take it against 56%. You'd be somewhere around, I don't know, what would that be, like 160 pounds for your first set here. 160 pounds is barely anything. Then you build up, have 2 heavier sets. But this is, your strength is all built right here. Everything that happens in here is to bump up that outcome. Everything that we did here was to bump up this. We didn't do all this work. This isn't just, okay, well, we did all this just to recover so that we could have a big number here, and this is where all the strength comes from. The strength doesn't come from here. The strength comes from here. All right, so that's how we would do this math. We would just drop it down. Now, what happens if you get a really high stress person that never settles down, that works all the time, that's absolutely crazy? You would drop it down 10% each way. So 86, so you'd go 76, 76, and then you go 71, and then you go 61. See how it's 10%? And then from there you drop it down 5, drop it down 5. So you go 10, 5, 5, and you just drop it down the ladder. So now you'd go 71, and you'd go 66. Is that right? Yeah. 71, and you go 66, and you go 56, and you go 66, 66, and then you'd go 61, and you'd go, no, 51. And you go 51 like that. So you drop it down 10, 5, 5. And keep in mind this whole time that we're really dropping it down 12, and we're dropping it down, what would that be? That'd be 12, 17, and then what's 5 plus 17? 23. So we're dropping it down 23%. Remember, all your strength gained right here. You do not gain strength up here. I got to change out my markers again. I knew this was going to happen. I knew these markers were going. I didn't go buy new ones. I should have. But all your strength, this is where you get your strength. You do not get your strength right here. And remember, this is not 88%. We're using 86%. We're leaving we're leaving 1 or 2 reps left in the tank so that you can overcome that number. We do not want to sacrifice the gain here for an injury. It's really stupid, right? Why would we do that? All right, so that's a 5 rep max. Now you have to change this. What would it be if it was a 3 rep max? What would it be if we were doing 4 sets of 3? Would we do the same thing? Well, kinda. If we're doing 4, now let's say we're doing 4 sets of 3, because this is more fun for people that like to max out. All right, so 4 sets of 3. Well, 3 reps, we know that you're at 94% of your 1 rep max, so you can use this. So 94% of your 1 rep max. So we're going to drop it down to 92%. 92% of your 1 rep max on week 4. Remember, all your strength is gained back here, though. So what we set up in here is more important than what we set up right here. And let's say we're still deadlift or squat doesn't really matter on your last week. You're going to do those in order. You're going to ramp that up. So we're going to drop that down. We're going to go 88%, and then we're going to go 83. And then we're going to go 78. Okay? And you're going to build up to that number of 78. Just get a few quick reps to feel that out. And you're going to go 83, 88, 92. And this set, if you're truly doing a test to see how much you can actually lift, if you want to know, don't do this very often. Absolutely, the absolute most, and this would only work for a beginner, you would do it once a month. Don't. Just don't do that. Do it 3 times a year and call it good. Save yourself. So 92%, and remember, 3 reps is 94%, not 92. We dropped it down to give ourselves a bump. Okay, we don't need to try to be doing a true 1 rep max. We need to go for reps, because reps are what are going to give us a more accurate depiction of what's actually going on, and we get more of a training effect out of it. We don't want to do a true 1 rep max unless we're in a competition, or unless one day you can do a true 1 rep if you got, like I did the other day, where I just didn't realize how like tired my body was, and I got there and I thought I was going to be able to do, somewhere between 3 and 5 reps, and I got there and I did 1, and I was like, nah, that's dumb. I got to rack this, and just kept it at 1 because I needed to listen to my body, and this is what I mean by setting your ego aside. I could have tried to probably put it up all crappy. I don't think it would have looked that bad. Instead, I was like, no, put it down. I've been here before. This is what I always did back when I would crack open my shoulder, my hip, my knee, because I was really bad at, I was really not smart. I was just like, no, let's overcome the body. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Just keep going. That's dumb. That's teenage and lower 20s Adam. Anyway, and new trainers do that all the time. But anyway, 92% is not 94%, right? You could probably get more than that here. It's not about that. We want to get more reps, not more pounds. Because if we get more reps, we get more pounds. All right, so we're dropping it down to a person who is a little bit more relaxed, gets really good sleep, and has just like your everyday person, not your works 80 hours a week, has 3 kids, is stressed out all the time kind of person. So now we're just going to work backwards. So we're going to go 88, 88, and then we're going to go 83, and we're going to go 78. Okay, we're just dropping it down 5, even though we're only doing 3 reps here. Like, obviously you can do more than 88% for a 3 rep max, but we're not going to max out. This is where you get all your strength. This is how you get all your strength. This is the number one thing in the strength world and in the injury prevention world that people do not get. You don't get to go up to 92% or 94% every single time. And if you're noticing this, the last 2 examples, these 2 examples I'm giving right now, neither of them even went up to a true max set, because I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that in order to get strong. I only need to do that if I want an injury or if I want a plateau. If I want long-term gains and I want to stay strong for a long period of time into my old years, and because then I need to do it this way, because I don't want to not be able to get up out of a chair. I see my grandma do that. It's awful. It's so terrible to watch. It's awful to watch. I cannot express this enough, how important it is and how big of a deal it is to me that I stay strong to the bitter end and drop dead. I hope that I'm running around, doing stuff that day, and then I drop dead. You do not, you want to be strong to the very bitter end. But 78% or 88%, 88%, 83%, 78%. We just dropped it by 5. 92% to 88. Actually, I did that wrong. That's bad math. Should be 87, should be 82. So 87, 82, 77. So let's redo these two. So this should be 87%, this should be 82, or no, this should be 87%, this should be 82, this should be 77. Now we drop it down another 5. So now we're going 82, 82, and then we drop it down another 5 to go up to our warm-up set. So we go 77, and we go 72, then we're going to drop it down another 5 to 77, 77, 72, 67. And these are all percentages. So 77% is nowhere close to 94%, because 77% will give you more strength than 94% will give you. Because strength is not about submitting your body to your will. Strength is a coaxing. Strength is a come here, let's do this. Strength is a leadership. Strength is a sales. Strength is an influence. You are not submitting your body to your will like you would be with 94%. You are asking it to come along. You are presenting an option that it gets to react to. Okay, you're giving it two, like, basically it'd be like if your kid doesn't want to go in the school in the morning. Okay, well, you either get to come to work with me, like that's what my dad might have said, something like that. If he was feeling extra patient one day, he might have said, you either get to come to work with me, mean go to work on the farm, or you get to go to school. Which one do you want to do? And I guarantee you, if this one would have been a ton of hard manual labor, which he shouldn't have given me, because I would have gone for this one over school. Or you get to go to school. This is very much what you're giving your body when you do this. When you do this, you're just slapping your kid. Okay? You're just beating on your kid, forcing them to do the thing that they don't want to do. When you do this, like what I just showed, you're asking them to do options. Okay, do you want more strength? Do you want more muscle mass? Do you want more health? Do you want more tone? Do you want more fat loss? You're giving it a stimulus, and then your body is reacting with what we think it's going to give us. Okay? Not everybody's going to respond the exact same way, but we're going to respond really, really close. Your commonalities are insane. So anyway, that would be for a 4. The first one I showed was a 4x5. This is a 4x3. So what do you do if you only have 3 sets of your thing? Well, if you only have 3 sets for your thing, you're probably either a beginner or you're later in your workout. So you might do 4 sets of 3 and then drop down and do 3 sets of 8, and then in your last grouping of exercise, you might do 3 sets of 12. Okay, so if we're doing 3 sets of 12, but it's the same thing, 68%. So we've got week 1, so 3x12. So we've got set 1, set 2, set 3, let's say, and we've got the weeks across the top. So 4, 3, 2, 1. I need a new pen because I don't think you guys can see it. I need some new markers, don't I? All right, so we've got set 1, set 2, set 3, and we're going to go for 12 reps of that thing, whatever that thing is. Well, we can still figure out, depending on the exercise, certain things you're just not going to do this with. But let's say that you're, for some reason, going for, let's say you're doing bench press. You're doing 2 dumbbell bench press. And we're going, so you wouldn't use 68. You wouldn't even use 66. So you'd go 64, and then you do horizontal sets. So you do 64%, 64%. You drop that down. 59% by 5, all right? And then depending, we'd either drop this down by 5 or by 10, depending on the person. If you're a high-stress individual, we're going to drop it down by 10, by 5, by 5. If you're not a high-stress individual and you get a lot of sleep and you're pretty good about it, then we're going to drop it down by 5, by 5, by 5, because you can handle that. So 64, we're going to go to 59, 59, and then 54. Yes. And depending, we would also drop this number up here by 10 instead of 5 if it was a high stress, but it's not a high stress. So now we're going to drop it down 5 again. So now we have 54, 54, drop it down 5, 49. So now week 1, we have 49, 49, and then 40, 44. All right, we just dropped it down by 5s each time. Now that sounds crazy, because why would I do 44% of my 1 rep max? Well, it's because you're doing 12 reps. You're doing 12 reps of the thing, so you have to be smart about it. you don't just get to look at the chart and go, okay, well, I can do one, if I can do 1 rep at 200 pounds, I can do, what would that be? What's 68% of 200? So I can do 1 rep at 100 pounds. This is easier. I can do 1 rep at 100 pounds. Well, okay. Well, I'm going to do for my first set, I'm going to do 68 pounds. This would be a big mistake because that sounds like a really low number. Last week, I did 100 pounds for 1. So this week, man, I should be able to do a lot more than 68 for 12. But that's a max set. That's very much a max set. So you have to think about that and work backwards. All right, well, we're trying to build up to be able to do more than that down here, right? Very, very good sets right here. So then we get all of our strength because we work smart here by backing down the number to 44% is not 68%. 49 is not 68. 54 is not 68. These numbers down here, where we're doing horizontal work, is not the same as this number right here, but this is pretty close. This isn't even that number right there. This is the thing. This is high school weight rooms. This is what you're going to get. They're trying to do 68% week 1. They're almost trying to do it on set 1. It doesn't work out very well. Anyway, you back down. You back off a little bit of weight. And I would say, like, you can do this without doing the math all up, but you have to be very intuitive to your body. You have to have an extremely good relationship with your body. And I'm a pretty good example. I've been lifting since 1997. I still do not think that I have anything even close to mastered that relationship with my body. And this is something I think about constantly. Obsessive. Regular people are not going to be thinking as obsessive as I am about this stuff. And I still have trouble doing this. So take it all out. Use the math. Do the math. It's just going to be much, much, much better for you. And what I was talking about earlier, the testing, real quick. So we just went over how you would do a test week, but that should be a rare thing. So we're gonna, at grit, we're gonna go, these are months. Really good handwriting. These are months, so these are phases, okay? Basically it's a month. It's not really a month, but it's pretty close. All right, so these are phases that we're going to go through. We're going to go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Okay, that's going to equal out to about 4 months of training. Okay, in this phase, we're looking at basically foundations of strength. All right, so in the first month, you're not going to test. Second month, you're not going to test. I know everybody's going to want to test already. Third month, going to want to test. Don't test. Do not test out. Think about this. Be smart about this. Month 4, we can think about doing a test. All right, and a test is never a true 1 rep max. We're not building up the weight. We're not going, like if you're trying to max out at 200 pounds, we're not going to go 75, 135, 185, 200 for 1. No, we're going to work up to 85 and try to hit as many reps as we possibly can at that 185. It's a smarter way to go about it. Okay, so now, this isn't the end though. We don't just go to 4 and then start back over at 1. So now we go 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you're out here at Grit Gym, you might notice these are more explosive oriented sets. We have more med ball work, more plyometric work, more speed work with a barbell, because we need to be able, you need to move different weights at different speeds in different vectors, so different angles of motion at different times of the year. That's basically, in one sentence, how you would, I think that's a very big run-on sentence, but that's how you would describe strength training. You have to do that. So we're changing how we move our weight, our body weight, how our tissues have to move, the pace at which they have to move at, all right? And we wouldn't test out at week 5, even though we just had a test. We just proved that you could do a test at phase 4. We wouldn't at 6, we wouldn't at phase 7. We might. We have this planned in here to test at phase 8. To see where you are. And then we can base your numbers from phase 8 across phase 5, or from phase 4 to phase 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? Some of that's going to change in there. We have variability built into the system so that you can actually do that. But because most of the people, like unless you had a really advanced athlete, you're not really going to be able to get good numbers for these. And by advanced, I mean they've been lifting consistently, like they're at the professional level. All right, then we have phase 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, and this is where we're looking more at a max strength, where we might get a true test down here. So after our whole year of work, we probably are going to, this is like the one area where we're really probably most likely going to hit a test. We're going to hit a test week. but these are optional. And we might do some in here depending on the person, but it's fairly rare. Like, it's just, there's no point. We can basically gauge how well they did on each of their final 4 weeks of each phase, figure out what this number should be if it does need change. But for the most part, this almost always, if we're been paying attention very well, we can basically project out what we think that they can get there. But this is all because there's tons of math that have gone into the performance of strength and conditioning. Everything comes from track, basically. So basically everything comes from track, and now strength and conditioning is right there with it. It's the most known about sport that we have, and so we can get pretty decent numbers from that, and we know what people are going to hit, especially in their first year of training ever. Well, I said that backwards, especially them training for a long time. In their first year of training ever, like if they're 45 years old and they've never trained before, this is, there's going to be all kinds of variability in here, and we might do more tests. But anyway, that's the math of strength for individualization. For a person that is a high stress person, for instance, we're going to back off 10%, and then we're going to back off 5, back off 5. And a person who gets decent amounts of rest, we're going to back off 5 each week of each phase. So it's not outrageously complicated, but it can get real quick. At 3 reps, you're about 94% of your 1 rep max. If you're going to do a 1 rep max for 3 reps, bump it up. Use somewhere between 92 and 88%. I realize that's less than 94%, and try to hit as many reps as you possibly can. That way, you're less likely to get injured, and you're more likely to get a training effect out of that thing. If you just go for a true 3 or a true 1, you're missing out on some of the benefit. But anyway, how good I do? I think I went over time. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this or you have questions about it, please write down below. I'd really be interested in hearing about it. And holy cow, Andrew Rowan. I was just talking about you on here earlier. But anyway, this is the math of strength. Hope you guys enjoy.